welcome back to my channel. Today I'm really excited. We are starting something brand new here on my channel. So I'm going to be starting something called Wicked Wednesdays, and Wicked Wednesday is very much inspired by Bailey Sarian, who does Murder Mystery and Makeup Mondays. If you don't follow her, you need to subscribe to her YouTube channel. I will link her down below. She's amazing. But she does these like murder stories every Monday on her channel. They're like true crime, and she does her makeup at the same time. So I'm gonna do Wicked Wednesdays, which is gonna consist of a mixture of things. So we're gonna do ghost stories, we're gonna do conspiracy theories, and all kinds of crazy, just like horrible shit. So for the very first episode, I would like to talk about the Lady of the Lake.
It's the Lady of the Lake! She screamed and then she killed!
And if you're not familiar with the Lady of the Lake, it's very near and dear to my heart, this story, because it's like a legend, let's call it. It happens right here where I live in Dallas, Texas. East Dallas specifically, and I actually used to live right next to this lake that this happens at. I'm gonna start doing my makeup, and I'll link what I'm using down below in the description box so I can just like focus on the story. Kind of some history on just the lake itself. Lady of the Lake is said to be at White Rock Lake in East Dallas, Texas, and that is right where I used to live. I used to live in an apartment right behind White Rock Lake. I used to walk there all the time. White Rock Lake was built as Dallas's first reservoir in 1911. In 1929, it officially became a Dallas state park, and it still is to this day. I have been there many times. I actually almost got married there. It is a 1,015 acre lake. So it's a pretty big man-made lake. More than 9 miles of hiking. You can walk your dog, you can run. There's a little track that goes all the way around the lake. In 2018, recently, Reader's Digest actually released a list of the top 14 most haunted bodies of water in the world. And among this list was White Rock Lake, because of this legend called the Lady of the Lake. Now, other bodies of water that are on this lake are Lake Loch Ness, which we all know to be the home of the Loch Ness Monster. Another place on the list is the Bermuda Triangle, which we all know there's some crazy shit that goes down in the Bermuda Triangle. So this particular Lady of the Lake story begins in the 1930s. It was started going around a high school, which is pretty local here. It's Woodrow Wilson High School. The first actual published account of this haunting of the lake was in 1943, written by a woman named Anne Clark. What this explains is that this couple parks their car right next to White Rock Lake, and they're hanging out having a nice time. They kind of flick their headlights on, and they see this white figure, and it starts coming towards their car. Any person would be a little freaked out by that, right? The figure came toward them, and it came right up to the driver's side window, and as it got closer, they realized that it was a young girl in a white dress. Her dress was dripping wet. She spoke very like timid, and she sounded kind of scared. She was very apologetic. "I'm so sorry to bother you, but I was in a boat that overturned, and everybody else in the boat is fine, but I just need a ride home." The couple agrees to bring her home. She gives them an address in Oak Cliff. If you're not familiar with the Dallas area, Oak Cliff is like South Dallas. And she is like insistent. She's like, "I need to sit in the back seat because I don't want to get you guys wet. I'm all wet." This couple starts to feel kind of uneasy while they're driving her home. They turn around to ask her for directions, and she's gone. She's not in the back seat. And she was definitely in the back seat when they started driving. And all that was left was a wet spot right where she was sitting in the back seat. How creepy is that? They looked for her, obviously. They pulled over, checked around the car, because they were like pretty much there at the address that she had told them to drop her off at. They ended up just going to the address that she had told them to go to anyway, because they were already pretty much there. And when they got there, they knocked on the door, and a man answered. He looked really worried when he answered the door. They kind of told the story of how this girl gave us this address. They wanted us to drop her off here. Do you know anything about it? Like, is she related to you? And the guy was like, "That's really weird, because you're the third couple who has come to me with the same exact story this week. And 3 weeks ago, my daughter was drowned while sailing White Rock Lake." Like, how creepy is that? So it was literally a ghost in the backseat of their car. As time went on, more people started reporting things. They were usually a little bit different just based on, you know, the person, but there are multiple other stories. A couple named Mr. and Mrs. Malloy were the next to have this published. They were both affiliated with Neiman Marcus, and they were in charge of like doing displays for Neiman Marcus. And Neiman Marcus in downtown Dallas is like a huge thing. They go to White Rock Lake one night, and the same kind of thing happens to them. They have a very similar weird experience. Same thing, they park their car, they see a girl, she walks up to the window, she seemed like flustered, like she was in trouble, and they were like, oh my gosh, she must have fallen in the lake, she's all wet. The wife, being that they are affiliated with a Neiman Marcus, is like, oh my gosh, that's a really nice dress. I kind of recognize that. I feel like that's a Neiman Marcus dress. So they decide to help her out, and she comes up. She tells them that she wanted to be taken to an address on Gaston Avenue in Lakewood, which is the little like section of Dallas that White Rock Lake is in. Funny enough, that's the road that I lived on. They let her in, and she gets in the back of their car. They start driving, and Mrs. Malloy actually turns around to just start having a conversation with her, thinking like, okay, maybe I'll just like calm her down a little bit. And she turns around, and what do you know, there's just a wet spot in the back seat. There's nobody there. Just like the other couple, they ended up going to the address that she had provided them. A middle-aged man answered the door yet again, and he was like, yes, I had a daughter with long hair. She wore nothing but Neiman Marcus clothes. That had to be her. But she drowned 2 years ago in White Rock Lake, and she fell off the pier. This couple who was affiliated with Neiman Marcus, the Malloys, were very like well respected. They were a very like reliable, trustworthy source, so they wouldn't just make something like this up. So a couple other stories that are kind of affiliated with the Lady of the Lake that I want to talk about. In 1935, on July 5th, Mrs. Frank Doyle found a suicide note left by her sister. Immediately alerted the police and let them know, like, hey, oh my god, found this suicide note. She says she's going to White Rock Lake. They sent 7 police cars racing to White Rock Lake to go hopefully find her before anything bad happened to her. Well, what do you know? They got there too late. And they found her body bobbing up and down in the water. When they pulled her out, they realized that she had just died like minutes before they got there. So if they had found the note or gotten there a few minutes faster, she probably would have survived. Although they tried to save her, they were unsuccessful. They did report that her car was parked nearby. On her car seat was a sheer sheet and white gloves. And we have no idea what was written on the suicide note other than that she was going to White Rock Lake. That's just kind of like a weird death that happened in White Rock Lake that was a woman. So maybe she was the Lady of the Lake. A little bit later, on November 24th, 1942, another death occurred. This woman was named Rose Stone. She was a 35-year-old woman from Mansfield, Texas, which is not that far from here. She was very distraught and committed suicide by drowning herself in the lake. Her body was said to be dressed in a sweater and a skirt. So, well, it's not a dress, it's still like, you know, a skirt. A note was pinned to her sweater asking that they notify her family in Fort Worth that she had passed. The only thing that was found with her was her hat and her coat, which was by the shore. And it seems like this is like a weird, just like place that people kill themselves and die. I don't know. I mean, since I've lived here, I think I remember 1 or 2 deaths happening, and I've lived here in Dallas for 4 years. I remember 1 or 2 deaths happening in the lake, and I also remember a kid like drove his Aston Martin into the lake, or his dad's Aston Martin. Sucks for dad. Another kind of weird thing that happened at the lake, there was a boat excursion going on at the lake. And that's not an uncommon thing. They still do boat excursions and things at the lake all the time. It was in the middle of the summer, and this couple goes on a boat excursion at White Rock Lake. I guess there was an argument that happened between the couple, and the woman, she got in the car. She sped off in her date's car that she had taken after this argument. There's a lot of like twists and turns on this road that surrounds the lake. It's called Latte Drive. Very like scary at night. She's driving, she's upset, and there could have possibly been alcohol involved. She ended up driving the car into the lake and she drowned. So these were some kind of true crimes that happened in the lake. This man named Bill Leonard and his wife actually had an encounter with the Lady of the Lake. To them, she appeared as a hitchhiking ghost, which a lot of people call her that, I guess, or you know, kind of have experience where she's like hitchhiking. She had flagged them down and she said she was in a boating accident like all the other stories. She needed to be taken to an address on Gaston Avenue. Again, Gaston Avenue, I used to live there, kind of creepy. In this particular case, she got out of the car and as she slammed the door, she disappeared like as if she went up in smoke. So that's kind of another account. That account didn't say whether or not they knocked on the door and found out if anything weird happened, like with the family that lived there or anything, but she just slammed the door and went up in smoke. Other accounts of the Lady of the Lake have been said to be a bride. So a couple people have said that she was like a distraught bride whose husband left her and she ended up drowning in the lake, or they were supposed to get married and he ended up like leaving her and marrying someone else, and she was seen in her wedding dress. So a couple of the accounts were like that. So another account of this story that I found happened in the 1970s, and this person claims that they had a family friend who had driven home the Lady of the Lake, and she had given her an address in Oak Cliff as well, which is where the original story had given the address to. Apparently, this family friend of this person has refused to ever drive near the lake ever again. Now, as if the ghost story isn't scary enough, having a ghost in your car and have him vanish in the backseat and leaving a wet spot, according to this ghost hunter, her name is Lisa Farwell, something like that. She described the story of a mother and daughter who went to the lake just to, you know, hang out. They were sitting on one of the boat docks and suddenly they saw something floating in the lake. And then they heard a blood-curdling scream.
It's the Lady of the Lake! She screamed and then she killed!
After they heard the scream, the object that was floating in the water turned over as if it had rolled on its back, and then they realized it was a body. So this body that had rolled over in the water after this blood-curdling scream then looked up and stared at them through dark, hollow eye sockets where there were no eyes. Can you imagine what that must be like? And then after it like stared at them like that, probably like through their freaking souls, it just disappeared. Like it was never there. That I think is the scariest, creepiest version of that story that has to do with the Lady of the Lake, I think. That has to be scarier than driving home a ghost. It has to be, because that's like more traumatizing. A lady actually in the 70s claimed to be, this is probably like the craziest thing. So she claimed to be the real Lady of the Lake. This was like briefly mentioned in an article in the Dallas Morning News. According to the guy who wrote this article, this woman, she claims that she and her lover parked by the lake many years ago and they made love. I lied, they didn't make love. She was wearing a white dress and her husband's or her lover's at the time car malfunctioned and rolled into the lake. She got soaked because I guess she was in the car. It doesn't really say, but she got apparently drenched after this car rolled into the lake. I guess she had asked for a ride home from someone who was at the lake, and she had asked to go to her parents' house on Gaston Avenue. Where was her lover? Did he ask for a ride home? Like, that's the question that I have. I guess she was wearing a white dress and she thinks that she started this entire legend, and I just don't buy it. I think it's a ghost. Around the time that this lady had said that this happened is when the story started being told. Some of you may be wondering, what's the deal with White Rock Lake today? And let me tell you, it seems like a normal lake to me. Like I said, there's been some weird things that have happened since I've lived here. Right now, once a month, they do ghost tours from 8 p.m. to midnight at White Rock Lake. And it's $40 a person. So I think it'd be fun to do like around Halloween. Maybe I'll just like try to get some friends together and maybe we can go. The tours are really interactive, so you get to use like ghost hunting things and stuff like that, so people can learn about the hunting tools and look for ghosts and things like that. And it's kind of cool, like they give you like the rods and like all that stuff. I thought this was kind of interesting. The group that runs the tours was actually approached by television networks before, and they have declined and refused to be on TV because they feel that it would interfere with the authenticity of the tour. I actually want to look up really quick since I do live here. Let me see. We have this like Facebook page here. This is like the neighborhood Facebook page. This is for the locals. Okay, this is interesting. This is super weird. So this lady posted, this was back in 2017. This lady posted in the group that I'm in, and it says her 4-year-old periodically sees the woman ghost at White Rock Lake, has now heard from the lady of the lake while on a walk, and according to him, there are mysteries in the water, Mom. Way deep down, she wants to tell about the mysteries, but nobody can hear her. Oh, this is like giving me the heebie-jeebies. She asked him if nobody could hear her, how could he hear? And he said, she tries, but nobody will listen, and it's not his story to tell. Ooh, okay. My family has lived in Lakewood and we've had several sightings of the lady. We don't believe in this kind of thing really, but we have seen this undisputedly. She disappears and leaves wet, mossy remains. A similar story happened when she rang doorbells in the middle of the night and the homeowner, my uncle, found wet, mossy footprints on the porch. So creepy. Oh my God, someone said their father had the same encounter of the nature for someone asking for a ride and leaving wet, mossy remains. That's so creepy. I did hear that a couple of accounts said that she had like knocked on doors nearby, the lady, and then disappeared. So I don't know if that's like part of this as well, but there's many obviously different stories associated with the Lady of the Lake, and I think it's pretty cool. It's like a local legend. People all know about it here, and it's scary, but it's kind of cool. White Rock Lake is a cool place to hang out, so don't be scared if you're in the Dallas area to go to White Rock Lake, because it's really beautiful and it's a fun place to hang out. But yes, there is a ghost at night, so be on the lookout for her if you ever go at night. So if you guys enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. It was my first one. Feel free to recommend down below some like legends or ghost stories or just like creepy things I can talk about on Wicked Wednesdays. And I will see you guys in my next one. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see more every week. And I also do other videos as well, so stick around for those. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.